Hello, everybody. My name's Joe, and I created MAGFest. Welcome to MAGFest.
First off, do we have any first-timers here tonight? Hey, all right. The more the merrier, I always say.
And the reason I'm out of breath is because who here knows who Walter Day is? One person in here knows Walter? Okay, a couple people. Walter, in the referee, who saw King of Kong? Anybody? Walter. Yeah, so in 2018, he inducted me into his little Hall of Fame for creating MAGFest, and he gave me these cards, and these are all I got left, and I don't even know if he can make more, but it'd be a real pain. And I left them, Al, where you were asking. They were sitting in the front desk of the restaurant where I set them down when I was talking to Diehm. And I went in, and some guy who works at the hotel started screaming, "Hey, no running!" "Hey, yeah, those are your," because I grabbed him and hugged him. And the guy's like, "We could have called you if you left your phone on," if I left my phone number on the box, yeah, okay. And I was out of breath, so I just handed him a card, and he said, "Thank you." And that was all like in the past 5 minutes. Go ahead, Shawn, you introduced yourself, right? No, you guys introduce yourselves. Go.
Yeah, no, I'm Shawn Sackett. I got brought into the first one by this guy. It was just a match made in heaven. I've freaking been singing Sonic music since I can remember. So.
Also, here, fellow Lumberjack as well. The youngest one by like a couple of years. I'm 37. Perhaps largest proportionality of life to MAGFest could be. But just kept coming because it's awesome. And that's about it. But then they all blend together. Oh, my name is Steve.
I got you. This is Tom Diehm. It's all in the guidebook. I'm Joe Yamine. This is Shawn Sackett, S-H-A-W-N, and that's Steve Sorensen. And these two guys are lumberjacks. Who here knows what a lumberjack is? There's 7 of them left. Right, so there's 7 of them left, and if you were on the last panel, if you were here in this room for the last one, you got to meet the other 5. I got to steal 2 of them, so I have somebody on my panel.
Hey.
And
I'm glad to be included, yeah.
It's always always a pleasure. And for those of you that don't know, the Lumberjacks are 7 attendees who showed up year 1 and have never missed a single year. I personally, this is MAGFest 22. It would be 23, but they missed a year for the pandemic. And this is my 17th MAGFest, Tom's 20th, and these guys had a perfect 22. And that's only counting the flagship event, none of the side events or spin-offs. And Tom, if he didn't mention, his claim to fame is, and we'll tell the story later, not the lowest badge number, that's this right here for MAGFest 1, but the first attendee to show up and check in at MAGFest 1. He actually showed up the night before the event when we were unloading stuff, and we found him in the lobby with a Neo Geo AES in a box. So, but we'll get to that. So we've done this panel every couple of years. Well, for the past few years, we've done it every year. I'm going to do it as quickly as possible. I'm going to run through my little spiel about the creation of MAGFest back in 2001 and 2002. I try and do that it usually takes closer to 15 minutes. I try to do it in 10. And then we're going to turn it over to Q&A. If you have questions, try to keep the questions related to, pre-MAGFest, MAGFest 1, MAGFest 2, because beyond that, these guys would have stories for that, but keep the questions about, the early years, like MAG 1 through 5, pardon me. And then at the end, we'll have a couple of announcements and plugs and things, and that's pretty much the panel. So let me jump right into the history of MAGFest. Oh, are we? Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, wow. God, those are old flyers. MAGFest did have a co-founder who hasn't shown up since MAG 2, my good friend Shawn Ryder, and we met in 1998. I was taking Japanese classes because I've been playing JRPGs since I was like 10. I played Dragon Warrior 1. It had been out for like 2 months, and I was hooked after that. And So I was taking Japanese classes at the local community college, and there's a guy in the class with me, and he said, you got to meet my buddy Shawn. And so I met Shawn, and we hit it off. And we started, you can see up there, Club Roanime. For those of you that don't know, MAGFest started in Roanoke, Virginia. So I'm sure plenty of people here, there's a couple of people here from Roanoke. Yeah, at least one from Roanoke. Oh, okay, there's a couple, cool.
Nice.
So we started an anime club that met at an old movie theater that had been converted to like a bar and grill with a movie screen. And the guy let us show 3 hours of anime every Sunday night. And he had a VCR and a DVD player hooked up to the projector upstairs. And me and Shawn just were doing it for fun. And the very first week, like 30 or 40 people showed up. This was February of 2000. And we were surprised. And about that same time, we started going to anime conventions, and we would get a bunch of guys from the group to go with us. We'd book a room, and we started staffing. We staffed it. And some of y'all will know this, NecoCon, Anime Mid-Atlantic. I don't think AMA is still around, is it?
No,
say what?
Died like 2017.
Okay, yeah. I wonder how Ed's doing. But anyway, we did KatsuCon, NecoCon, Anime Mid-Atlantic. We almost did Anime USA, but that's a long story. We didn't. And so we learned how to staff conventions, and we had a crew, and we were running our anime club for a good year there. And then finally, in February of 2021, we were at KatsuCon. That would have been maybe the third week in February. And say what?
2001. Not 2021.
Sorry, yeah, it's
Time travel.
It's been a long day. I just came up on the Amtrak this morning. We were staffing KatsuCon, and we would always either work the video rooms for them or the video game room. So they were having us run their video game rooms. And the thing is, most of the guys in the anime club were into anime, but me and Shawn and one or two of the other guys were really like Rick. Anybody here remember Rez? Anybody here been coming long enough to remember Rick Scott Trooper? Yeah, okay. So Rez was really into computer games, and Purnell was really into games, and that night I was drunk. And somebody told me the story this morning that the story goes around. We did not have a bad time at KatsuCon that year. We had a great time. The rest of the story you may have heard is completely accurate except for that point. And I looked at Shawn, drunk in the stairwell, sneaking a cigarette because, you can't smoke in the hallways in the hotel. And I said, hey, Shawn, let's do this for ourselves. Let's do an anime convention in Roanoke. And he said, Joe, tell me that again when you're sober. And the next morning, we're packing up. I had that old 97 red Pontiac, and we're packing it up, the trunk. And I looked at Shawn and said, what I said last night, let's do it. And he looked at me, he said, okay. So we had a buddy in Roanoke who worked a science fiction convention, Blair, and we talked to Blair about it. And, we're jumping a little bit ahead here. No, that's fine. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, the video game tournament flyer. Who here knows Star City Games? They do magic cards out of Roanoke. Yeah, I figure a lot of people know Star City. Yeah, I've known Pete since I was 14. But we would do, before he did exclusively magic cards, and now he does comic merchandising again, he dabbled in everything, and he did video games for a while, and he had us come in to run video game tournaments for Star City, hence that flyer there, which Rez dubbed that JoeCon 2001, which he considered that MAGFest 0, but whatever. That's why that flyer is in there. Anyway, jumping back to February of 2001, God, that would have been a month later. Anyways, Blair said you need 3 things for a convention. You need a hotel contract, you need a business license, and you need a headliner guest. That third one may or may not be true, but for a startup convention, it helps. So we got the guys from the anime club together as our staff, and everybody donated like $30 up front, and that was our seed money. It was like $500 or something. And we started planning the convention. We got a hotel contract at the Holiday in Tanglewood. We got a business license, a partnership, me and Shawn, and we had a really hard time finding a headline guest. We sent out 6 invitations. To this day, I cannot remember the 6th one, but you'll find these interesting. We sent one to Microsoft, to Alexander Pajitnov. Some of y'all know that name, Tetris. He never responded. We sent one out to David Crane, Pitfall. He never responded. We sent one to Victor Ireland of Working Designs, and we actually met with him in person, and he was very supportive, and he sent us some free stuff. I still have one of those Arc the Lad posters at home. We sent a letter to Michael Bell, you might know as the voice of Raziel in the Legacy of Kain series. He wanted like a $5,000 appearance fee. Our entire budget for the show was $10K. We sent a letter to the mini bosses, and they got back to us, and they said, we'll do your show if you buy our plane tickets, because they're out in Arizona. So, okay, sure. And actually, that's me jumping ahead. All while this was going on, we kept thinking about, people don't know this, MAGFest was originally called Omake-Con, O-M-A-K-E. It's a Japanese word. Does anybody know what it means? Right. Extra. Right. Present, bonus, extra, gift. It was going to be our gift to the anime world. But, you know, the more I got to, and it was, the draw was going to be the anime convention with the biggest video game room, or bigger than normal, because we always used to get tired of how the anime cons had these tiny little game rooms with nothing in there. Like, oh, look, there's a Super Nintendo. That's it? Okay. But we got to thinking about it, and we really wanted to do something that was more focused on video games, and I had the idea, why not just make it a video game convention? To my knowledge, that hadn't been done. It had been done a little bit. There were, John Hardy had his Classic Game Expo in Vegas at the time. He has the museum in Frisco, Texas now. There were some guys that ran an little Atari weekend up in, where's the Midwest Classic?
Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee. That used to be JagFest, Jaguar Fest, which is where I got the fest from. I'll get to that. And there was the Philly Classic in Philadelphia, which is now the Too Many Games Expo. But there really wasn't much. So two or three things happened all at once. One, I told the Anime Club that we were going to shift it, we were going to rename it and shift it to a video game convention, and they all got angry and quit, except for like 3 of them. It's whatever. 2, the mini bosses got back to us and said, we'll do your show. And 3, Shawn and I rebranded the show as the Mid-Atlantic Video Game Festival. So the Music and Gaming Festival is actually the 3rd name of the convention. And we got the idea for Mid-Atlantic off of AMA, and Festival off of JagFest, which is now the Midwest Classic, and Omaki off of the side of the box of the Arc the Lad collection and the Lunar 2 collection for working designs people. Yeah, I was like 21. So, I mean, I was 21 when I started MAGFest and 23 when I sold it. Anyways, all these things happened. And the main thing is the mini bosses signed on, so we now had a convention. And they put our website on their page, so suddenly all these other musical performers started hearing about it, and they wanted to come and perform. So originally the mini bosses playing was just going to be one of a variety of events. Suddenly that was the main event, and there were going to be 3 bands playing. And oh yeah, that's a picture of me with my, that's a Nintendo Versus cabinet converted into a Neo Geo MVS. I wish I hadn't sold that. That's me literally about 20 years ago when I still had a ponytail pulled back. That was in my shop, Captain Game Station. You can go on YouTube and look up the Captain Game Station television commercial, and you'll see me like 20-some years ago. I had a video game shop for 2 years. That was when we first got the program books printed, that picture. Anyway, so suddenly we were sitting on not just a video game convention, but a musical concert, 3 bands playing Saturday night. And to my knowledge, that had never been done before. A video game convention in a hotel with a concert. And that's the other thing. All those other video game events at the time were in big warehouses. Ours was in a hotel like this. You wouldn't have to close up at midnight and open back up at 6 a.m. You could just rock around the clock. And to my knowledge, that had never been done before.
And that's what we did.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Anyway, I'm sure I missed a couple of details, but oh yeah, we can scroll through the rest of these. The rest of these are MAGFest in the future, aren't they?
Yeah.
But MAGFest finally happened originally we had the hotel scheduled for April of 2002, but when we ran into all that drama and trouble changing the focus of the convention, having a bunch of staffers leave, trying to figure out a new name for the convention, we talked to the hotel and bumped it to September of 2002. And MAGFests 1, 2, and 3 were held in September, October of the respective years. MAGFest 4 was where it changed to January and the name changed to Music and Gaming. At any rate, MAGFest 1 happened. I got 11 hours of sleep in 4 days. I went to bed Sunday night, slept 13 hours, and woke up with the worst flu of my life. And I had also gotten accepted to do my grad work at USC, where I got to work. You guys like Star Wars? I got to work with Irvin Kershner for 6 weeks. Some of you know that name. I've still got a DVD he autographed for me, and that guy's been dead fit. He was cool. He had a lot of not nice things to say about Frank Miller, but that's another story.
Director of Empire Strikes Back,
Yeah,
right?
he also directed RoboCop 2 and some other stuff. He was one of George Lucas's teachers in the 60s. That's how he got the job on Empire. And he talks the same thing he told us in class. He talks about on the commentary of every DVD he's featured on. He died in 2009, I think. I'm actually starting a podcast in the next few weeks. I'm going to tell that whole story. I'll find a way to let everybody know later. Anyway, after MAGFest, I got accepted to my grad work. We had a third guy who had bankrolled us, and we came up $3,000 in the hole, which sure seems like a lot when you're 22 years old and it's the year 2002. You know. And Shawn wanted to keep going, but not by himself. The one guy wanted out, and I was going to do my grad work. And back then, it would have been a lot more difficult to run a convention, however small, from the other side of the country. You guys know USC is in Los Angeles. And so we updated the website. I know I skipped all the fun stuff that happened that weekend, but these guys can fill you in on that. And Tom, too. I was busy running around like a chicken with my head cut off, so I didn't really have a lot of fun there. No, it was a good weekend. But so we posted on the website, we posted a little thing that said, game over. And within a week, some other random website, we still don't know who this was, cropped up, said, hey, we're bringing you the next MAGFest. Wait, what? Shawn actually had to just like doctor up a BS cease and desist letter to this website. And it worked. They took it down. We still to this day do not know who the random people were. At any rate, you guys know Brendan Becker. He had been at Mag 1 with his Pi DDR, which was a computer emulated DDR that he had developed himself. And he contacted us. He's like, hey, I want to keep the show going. So we told him, yeah, we'll sell it to you for X amount. He can tell you if he wants, that's his business. We said, you've got till the end of the year. He showed up December 31st at my front door at 9 p.m. with the money. So I called up my cousin who's a notary. I called up Shawn. I called up the other guy who, and so as of January 1st, 2003, Brendan owned MAGFest. And we all showed up to help him out MAGFest 2, and we decided that he needed to really fly on his own. So MAGFest 3, he, did MAGFest 3 on his own. Was anybody here at MAGFest 3? Aside from these two guys. Okay, so there's a few people who know what I'm getting at. I'm gonna leave that story alone. And then Paul stepped up MAGFest 4, Dom came in MAGFest 5, MAGFest 6, they moved into the Marks Center, MAGFest 10, they moved here, As you can tell, most of what I know about MAGFest is from the years 2001 to 2003. And in a nutshell, that is the short story of the creation of MAGFest. Tom? Oh, yeah.
So one question I do like to tee up for you here is that, music was never really going to be part of MAGFest. It was sort of like, to use the Bob Ross term, it was like a happy accident.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So,
yeah, my original vision for MAGFest had been much closer to what the Penny Arcade guys did. Because as a kid, I always wanted an E3 on the East Coast. So, again, I'm going to make one of my own. That's a lot easier said than done. But the Penny Arcade guys pulled it off, and they've outlived E3. In fact, it's funny because we were at E3 2002 promoting MAGFest, and who knows who, his real name is Lawrence Turiad. Anybody? I pity the fool. Mr. T. He's actually really short in real life, and we asked if we could take a picture of him holding our, because the shirts were done, these shirts were done at that point, and he's like, I'm not doing that. So when he was like talking to someone else, like Purnell snuck up and held the shirt, and I snapped a picture. So somewhere there is a picture of a MAGFest t-shirt with Mr. T. He was there promoting anybody play the Rocky game that came out for like GameCube and Xbox in like 2002? He was promoting it there at E3. But yeah, we wanted to bring E3 to the East Coast. And you know, it's MAGFest 1, we got like 280 people and you know. But again, the concert was just, what can we do with MAGFest to kind of make it a variety show, to make it more than just a bunch of machines set up in a warehouse, because one, we're not in a warehouse. And Shawn was, you guys know, I don't know whether it's Machinist Supremacy or Machine Supremacy. You guys know them? Yeah, they're great. They actually came here twice. That was like a dream come true to see them. Say what? Yeah.
It happens.
And I missed that. But Shawn wanted to get them, but we couldn't afford to fly a band in from... No, they were the original idea. And I said, well, how about the mini bosses? They don't have to fly international. Let's contact them. And so we got the mini bosses. And like I said, once the mini bosses put our website on their website, suddenly anybody know like Mustin and Dale and the One-Ups? You know those guys? Yeah, they wanted to show up. And you guys know Jake Kaufman. He did the soundtrack for Shantae, and I've got a couple of...
And
Jake,
that's how I found out, because on BG Mix.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
And you know, and they wanted to come, and those two guys from New York, E for Everyone. I don't think they're around any. I mean, their band's not around anymore. But so before we knew it, it was a video game convention where our headline was a 3-band music concert on Saturday night, and if I had held on to MAGFest, that would have just been one of, you know, instead of becoming the main attraction of MAGFest, a myriad of concerts. But Brendan also, like everybody who showed up, everybody who wasn't in Roanoke showed up for the concerts. So when Brendan took the show, in his mind, that's what... Oh, and the other thing was, I have no problem with corporate sponsorship. You know, call me what you want. They wanted to keep... But we had used the tagline, because we were on our own the first year. We couldn't even get... You know, that's a fun story, actually, because we got unofficial support, because we had friends both at... You guys know GameStop used to be called Babbage's, right? So we had a good friend of mine who actually helped out with that tournament at Star City. He was a manager at Babbage's, so he gave us a bunch of free stuff out of the promo drawer. And the night manager at the hotel was the regional Xbox representative. And at the time, Xbox was a brand new thing. So Saturday night, he wheels in this giant gurney full of like Xbox posters and keychains and things and just starts giving stuff away. I'd like to know what happened. He moved back to Texas, I think. But MAGFest 1, we couldn't... I shouldn't tell the story of the guys that... no, I'll skip that story, because we had contacted a lot of organizations. You would be very familiar if I mentioned the names, and we got several curt responses of, we don't know anything about your show. We don't want to be associated with your show. You guys could be a pack of jokers. Honestly, they were right, you know. But we had there was a lot of resistance getting support for MAGFest that first year. So we decided on the tagline, by fans, for fans, because we were going at it solo. The point being, is Brendan kind of went with that, and so did Paul and Dom, to keep the show free of any sort of corporate sponsorship. So it didn't evolve like PAX, which, you know, they have everyone from Konami to Mountain Dew there, which I don't have a problem with that personally. But the guys who took the show over after me, they kept it independent. So yeah, the answer to the question is my vision, but you know, earlier, yeah.
But you did have a couple other like things the first year, like you had the very first TurboGrafx.
Yeah, that's
system.
right.
You had the Implode game
Yeah,
for TurboGrafx.
that's right.
That was the homebrew.
Yeah. Anybody remember B.T. Garner? He made a couple of independent TurboGrafx games like Implode and Meteor Blaster. He had a diabetic issue and passed away about a year and a half ago. I didn't know, but we had the guy who made the very first homebrew for TurboGrafx. There was a company called TurboZone Direct who sold factory sealed TurboGrafx merchandise years after the American company closed up. He sent us the very first TurboGrafx that rolled, I've got a picture of that somewhere, the very first one to roll off the assembly line in a display case. We got to show that off. We had the American premiere of the anime based on the Ys franchise for Falcom, we had the American premiere of that anime, the localization. So I'm a big PC Engine nut. That was my secret goal, was kind of to make it TurboGrafx Con, which also didn't really happen. We had a lot of other things in mind. But then the point I was making earlier was MAGFest wound up very different from how I envisioned it. But I hear stories about like people proposing marriage and getting married at MAGFest, and a million other stories. So I couldn't be happier.
It happened again this weekend.
Did it? Mm-hmm. I mean, 25,000 people show up and they're having a great time. I've got nothing to complain about. But anyway, do we want to hand it over to questions? Do you guys have anything?
Nope, not really.
All right.
I mean, I could, I found out about it from VG Mix. I can just share how a little bit of my MAGFest 1 story. Just found out online on VG Mix, and I was 13, and begged my parents to take us and my buddy here, like me and my friend.
A whole van full of us, actually.
And they stayed for the first 2 MAGFest. And then I guess I was old enough to just go, but...
Yeah, no, the second year you decided not to sleep, and it was a bad idea.
Yeah, zero sleep. Yeah, somehow just getting by on gaming, just gaming and balls. So just caffeine, but don't do that.
Well, I guess we've got about 25, 30 minutes for Q&A. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, do we have anybody want to volunteer to be microphone runner?
I can run if you want.
I can project here.
Yeah, that's not bad.
How is Rez doing? Since it's been a few years since.
Yeah, he's
How is
doing
Rez
all right.
doing?
I mean, I talked to him. Oh, you as well.
So his father passed away a few years ago.
That's
about 2 years ago now, and he's. I guess he's doing all right. I didn't talk to him for a number of years, and then we kind of chit-chatted a bit after that, and he handed me 40 gigabytes of photos and video from like the first 15 MAGFests, and I got to figure out what to do with that. But he handed me a ton of video and photos, some really cool stuff I'd never seen from the years I missed.
Yeah, he posted a video of that they took on the way and like around at MAGFest, and if you watch it, you can definitely see me wearing my like black hoodie and leather jacket, sitting on the floor playing Magic the Gathering.
No, but just went and cleared out like the garage after his dad passed, and I think he just got like he's getting all those cars working super good. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You mean the MAGFest 1 concert? I'll look. I mean, because I've still got the original. I found a camcorder tape, and I had no idea. And I got a buddy who restores old VHS, and I said, "Can you find out what is on this?" And he brings it back to me. He's like, "Joe, it's some sort of music concert." And I said, "Well, send it to me on Google Drive." And he did. I'm like, "Holy crap, we've been looking for this for 20 years." And he ripped it to a DVD. I put it on YouTube. So if you want to go and look, about half of the MAGFest 1 concert before the tape ran out is up there. I'll go check that. Anybody? Yeah. You'd have to ask Paul Good. So Shawn Ryder, my co-founder, was really into them, and he's the one that turned me on to them in like 1999, which they were pretty new back then. Yeah. I mean, they go way back there. It's like they're from northern Sweden. They're from north of Stockholm, and I think one of them's either from Finland or Norway. I forget.
Test.
Say what? Oh, that was. It was when they showed up to play MAGFest, I had no idea they were going to be here. That was just a huge surprise for me, and I told Paul Good, I was like, "Wow, you're reading my mind. I've been waiting 15 years for this." And then they showed up again like 2 years later. But about how he contacted them and got them over, you'd have to talk to Paul or Dom about that, because that was way after my involvement. Anybody? Not all at once? Yeah, okay.
Could you talk a little bit more about like the growing pains in the first few years of the convention, specifically when you moved to the Mark Center, and then again when you moved into here, like what challenges you faced?
Okay, so none of us were actually staffing at that point. Again, my involvement ended in the move from Roanoke to Williamsburg. The show went from Roanoke to Williamsburg to Charlottesville to, where was that, Sheraton?
Yeah.
Tyson's Corner to the Mark Center to here. I can tell you a little bit. I think Brendan had the idea to just run MAGFest wherever he was living at the time, which was why it. Yeah, and MAGFest, you think it's chaotic now. MAGFest got thrown out of multiple hotels, but that I don't know the whole story of that. There was a giant window that was broken or something, or a chandelier. I don't know.
Yeah, no, in Charlottesville, they rocked so hard, the chandelier fell from the ceiling in the concert hall. Luckily, no one was hurt.
Yeah, that's. But it was. I know it was finally Paul who had the idea to. And then this is, Shawn and I actually wanted to move up here to Northern Virginia after year 2 or 3. If we had stuck with the show, we were going to do year 2 to try and recoup our losses and then move north year 3, because we knew the show didn't have a future in Southwest Virginia. It's too far off the path. But of course, fate took us down another, but very early on there was the idea to move it up here to Northern Virginia. And Paul finally, and was it year 9 at the Mark Center? They sold out. It was crowded, and so they found.
Steve didn't get a ticket.
Yeah, for 9. Yep, had to sneak in.
He had always got wait until the last minute to just bite at the door, and then we showed up. And
how did you get in?
Oh, I just snuck in. Yep.
Well, that's a new one for me.
Still counts.
Yeah,
no choice.
No, it counts. It counts. Yeah. Questions? Anybody? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Why the name Lumberjacks?
It's a sort of. So MAGFest 1 had the Woodmen, which is actually like what do they do?
They do mutual and term life. Has anybody ever heard of Woodmen of the World? So the regional office for Southwest Virginia is in Roanoke, and the Woodmen of the World were having their insurance meeting that weekend at the same hotel. So people are showing up for MAGFest, and outside the hotel there's a big sign that says, "Welcome, Woodmen of the World." So at MAGFest too, you'll have to pick it up for here, because you guys in Joe Cam coined the name, right?
We didn't. I guess Joe.
I just heard about it.
It was either Joe or Rez, or I don't know.
Yeah, we're back for another year. We're the Lumberjack, because he couldn't remember the word Woodman, so he's like, "Yeah, we're back for another year. We're the Lumberjacks." There's that old joke from was it the Charlie Sheen movie Hot Shots? Lumberjacks go all night or something. And these guys, you guys know that movie Hot Shots with Charlie Sheen?
I didn't know that was the reference.
There's that joke about how
sense.
lumberjacks, of course, in this case, that they party all night and play games and drink, But yeah, that's where it came from. There are classifications. I, for instance, and Tom, we are woodmen. If you were at year 1 and you've been to a couple of them since, you're a woodsman. And like if you made it early on, like prior to like year 6, and you've been around carpenter and but.
Oh yeah, and then every mag stock, which I'm not anymore, would have been in scout, and I think there's like 1. Or something
You guys,
like that.
the panel before this one with Joe was up here. Joe Cam, he's the one to answer that question. He knows a lot more than us. Please. Oh wait, do you want the microphone? Okay. Okay.
So I can answer some of that. The quick rundown is, obviously this is our second straight year that we've hit cap. We hit cap a few years ago as well. So I know that right now we are signed with the Gaylord through 2030, and that's mainly because we have a really good relationship with them. And that's part one of it. Part two is we have looked into doing things like the DC Convention Center, for example. That's around, I'm wanting to say 42,000 capacity.
That would be nice.
Otacon's been there the last few years because
Smart.
when they moved down from Baltimore. However, I will say we are definitely getting a better deal here than we would over there. That's part one of it. And two is basically there was a determination made about, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago, that do we want to do basically a Dragon Con where we just have one big, huge event every year? Or do we want to have a fairly large event, but we want to do more stuff? And the answer was B, because one, I mean, to do something large that's now 40,000 people would be even more logistics. And they also wanted to do other events. So MAGFest, obviously this is our biggest event far and away, but we have MagStock in June. We have MagWest during the summer out in San Jose. We have BitGen GamerFest at I believe the end of July. I know there's some other concerts that we help sponsor. There's game over events, things like that. We also do things like we provide the
I heard Labs
the
is
games
coming
for
back.
AwesomeCon and Mag Labs. Mag Labs is coming back this year. Finally. I believe it's going to be a one-day pop-up event. I'm hoping there's going to be some more information coming soon. But for right now, basically we're not sure we want to add any more staff at this point. So we're pretty much here for the next 5 years. After that, we'll probably revisit it. But and just for the record, that 25,000 cap is a cap set by the hotel. So we're not able to exceed that.
You know,
Also,
5.
I heard that we'd have to go a pretty far distance in order to get another place that lets us hang out here all night long.
That's part of it. There's also some logistical issues with the convention center in DC. Kind of like here, there's not really a lot of hotels nearby, although it is metro accessible. So,
Any other questions? Yeah, all the way
Mac
in the
has
back.
one question.
We're going to need a microphone back there unless you can. All right.
okay.
Sorry, I don't have enough abilities in case I came in late, so forgive me if you've already covered this. But I'd like to hear from, some of the originators. How did this
Okay, well, we could probably say, I mean, were you
The
there- were you there
Colossus
for that
roar.
one?
Oh,
Joe just answered. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
There, different people will tell you different answers to this, I think. But
I'll give you
First of all, what year was that? 6 or 7 or what?
I want to say that was
Seven. Seven.
Oh, that was the year. Yeah. It was
So I'll give you the quick rundown. So is everyone familiar with the X-Men 6-player arcade cabinet? That big, huge, widescreen. It's right over there. You guys should definitely play it if you have not. Anyway, there was some kind of issue in Mag 7 with that cabinet, and it was kind of in a hallway, and for some reason most of the sound was really low, except for the Colossus roar. The Colossus roar is the special move that Colossus has, and because it's arguably the best move in the game, because it's like a full screen move, people would spam that button. So you'd hear nothing else, but you would hear that at 5 times the level of anything else.
It damages you normally in the game, right? So but it's when it's on free
It
play.
uses up your
You know?
health.
Yeah.
Right.
It's designed to eat your money.
And we've tried to kind of move on from that, and et cetera, but
Some tried harder than others.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
eventually
it-
there was a conga line.
well,
in it.
we got, when Nobuo Uematsu was here back for Mag 10, I believe, he kind of did it, and it kind of started its own life all over again. I tell people it's like, yeah, guys, it's really not a thing anymore because, no offense, but my dad, he's 91, he knows about it. So I think it's 15 minutes might be up, but you know what? If you guys want to roar, God bless you. So there you go. There you go. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? Well, while you're thinking of a question, I'll tell you a funny story. This funny things that happened to me at MAGFest. This was this 2 years ago. I went to see the band that dresses up as the Transformers, and you know this story. This is Kevin, everybody. And so I was exhausted, and I just plopped down in the middle end of the floor there. And some young fella comes, "Excuse me, sir, you can't be sitting there in the middle of the floor. You need to get up right now and move. And I just didn't have the patience. I mean, he was right. It's a fire hazard. I just didn't have the patience for it. So I do this as sparingly as possible, but it does happen. I looked at the guy, I was like, do you know who I am? And he just kind of looks at me, I was like, buddy, look, I created all this. I'm the creator of MAGFest. And he looks at me, and he's like, that's really cool. You know why? Because I created MAGFest too.
Me too.
But luckily, like, these guys, Kevin was there, Tom was there, Luke was there. Luke, did you come in yet? No, he's not here. And they all swoop in. They're like, no, you don't understand. This guy really did. And I was like, no, don't worry about it. Forget it. I'll move. He's right, I'll move. But one year, I don't know how this started, and I encourage this. I don't know who I was talking to, was like, I created MAGFest. And then I think it was out, just a bunch of guys smoking cigarettes or something. And they all laughed. And from what I was told the rest of the weekend, it was a joke to run around, psst, psst. Random people would do this to each other. Psst, hey, you know what? I created MAGFest. So, like, if you go around and do that, I encourage that. That's hilarious. I should get T-shirts. Psst, psst, hey, guess what? I created MAGFest. That happened to me earlier today. I was searching for a cup of coffee, and there's a staff-only coffee thing down the hall, and I'm looking for it, and it's like staff only beyond this point. And there's like a door-side security there, and I'm like, hey, is that where the coffee is? Well, look, who are you, buddy? I'm like, look, I created, look, I'm the guy, I'm Joe. And she's just looking at me funny, and I'm like, I'm a panelist. Look, see, here's my badge. I'm a panelist. I'm just a panelist. She's like, oh, okay. It's like, I created MAGFest. No. I swear, I'm just a panelist. Yeah. Anyways, so that's something like that happens every year. And any questions? Okay, here we
I know at the first MAGFest, and this has been a tradition since then, the 24-hour game room, right? Wasn't that was one of your big goals for the first one, right?
Yeah, that was because, originally we asked the hotel, like, do we have to shut things? No, you can run it around the night. You're responsible for your own stuff. And actually, stuff did get stolen. So I said, well, what's stopping us from just leaving it open? And Dave Taylor and Purnell were willing to just run it around the clock, and Rez, the three of them just ran it around the clock. So we did. Yeah. It was, but also, you understand that the entire MAGFest 1 game room was smaller than this room that you're sitting in. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many square feet is this room?
Oh, I forget offhand.
This room might be more square feet than all of MAGFest 1 was. I'd have to double check, but
the concert room was a little big. I don't know.
Well, the concert room was half of this. I mean, this, you realize the concerts and the video game room were all one room divided by we had an air wall that we pulled open to split them. But both of those rooms combined were smaller than this room. I mean, it was a small show. We had about 20 staff, 15.
But we rocked it. We did.
Yeah. Is there someone in the back? No?
Here, I'll jump in for a minute. Yeah. So how I became the first attendee at MAGFest. So
sure.
Basically, in the late 90s, I was into the anime kind of scene, and Otakon was a big convention even back then, 25 years ago. Was going there regularly. And, I liked anime, but I was really looking, I'd go to Otakon and spend 90% of my time in the game room. So I was looking for more gaming-related conventions, and I don't remember who was actually staffing the booth at the time at Otakon, but these guys had a booth.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think it was you. I think it was Rez or somebody.
Otakon
or Shawn
2002?
maybe. Yeah.
I was there. Yeah, no,
Okay.
it was me, Purnell, Shawn, and we may have had a fourth person, but we had a turbo duo. That was my turbo duo set up on an old Sony PCM monitor that Shawn had, and people were coming by just to play Dracula, because you understand how hard it was to get your hands on Dracula X. You guys know Drac X? Yeah, I mean, I had it since I was 14 years old. I got it from TurboZone Direct from Steve Garwood. Anybody remember TurboZone Direct? Steve's retired now. He lives out near his son in Minnesota. But I had Drac X set up, and people were coming by to play Drac X in the Otakon dealer's room. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that was the first time I'd ever seen that game. And so you're like, oh, we got this convention going in September. And I originally was like, oh, maybe I'll go to it. And then it was sort of like, I actually got there a day early because at the time I was just like I hated my job, which seems to be a theme, but that's a whole separate conversation. Anyway.
We all do.
And I said, screw it. I'm just going to drive down by myself. I couldn't get anywhere else to go. I'm just going to hop in the car. I'm going to drive down there, and I'm going to get there early, and we'll just see what happens. And so I check into the hotel and stuff like that, and I'm just kind of walking around trying to see what's there, get my bearings, because it's been years since I've been in Roanoke, because I was living in Alexandria at the time here nearby. And these guys were doing like a planning meeting, and they kind of looked at me funny, like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I'm here for MAGFest. And they're like, well, it doesn't open until tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. That's fine. I just was, it's like, I'm just here early. I was just kind of walking around, no big deal. I was just going to just hang out and then, play games or stuff like that. And then it turns out that they needed still some more systems. Yeah. So, and I had brought my Neo Geo with me because I was just getting into Neo Geo, which is a giant money pit, and that's a whole separate conversation as well.
I'm American Turbo Graphics. That's worse.
And I said, okay, well, I can offer to donate my system for the floor and something like that. And we were sitting there playing Neo on the floor the next day.
It wasn't a planning meeting. We were actually there to open up the ballroom and start setting up the TVs and the arcade cabinets and the video game machines and whatnot. We had to go up front. I think I mentioned we had to go up front to get them to unlock the ballroom so we could get in. With the arcade, half of the arcade cabs didn't work. We had borrowed them from the local putt-putt mini golf, and they said, just take whatever you want. So we took a bunch, and that's probably why they were in storage and not out in the showroom where people could play them. But yeah, we were there Thursday night to start setting up, and somebody was already there. Yeah. Anybody got questions? No? All the way in the back there.
Hey. This was my first time volunteering this year. And
awesome.
I was just wondering what the evolution of the volunteering and by extension the staffing system was in the early days and how it's changed up to now.
I can tell you how we did volunteering year one, because we only had like 3 or 4, and it was dudes we knew who just didn't want to pay for a badge. We're like, all right, if you go watch that room for like 8 hours, I'll give you a badge. You get 2 hotel rooms, one for guys, one for girls, and you tell them, all right, you go watch that door for, so many hours a day. You can crash in that room we have rented, and here's a badge. You go up to the con suite, get you a sandwich or something. And MAGFest 1 had like 300 people, less than 300. It was, it's gotten a lot more, there's actual rules, there's actual rules to it now.
Oh, yeah. So 300 people. First year you had, maybe a handful of panels. The number of staffers we now have, volunteers, staffers, department heads, etc., now is somewhere around 2,000. It's quite a large number now, to the point that, we have a web team. We've got an external web team, but we've also got a team internally that has built a basically internal website. It used to be called Uber. Now we kind of call it Reggie because some other guy took the name. It's weird. I don't think anybody's ever heard of him. But this back end now has all sorts of things. It's for our panel submission form. It's also how people get their information for shifts. And a lot of it was we just built it over a period of years, over trial and error. Okay, this works, this didn't. And it just kind of kept expanding from that to the point that now we do have a whole set of policies for, okay, you need this number out volunteer hours to be to have your badge comped, this many to then be eligible for crash space the next year, because most people here know that the hotel rooms here every year is kind of like the Hunger Games, but Dragon Con's like that too. But to try to give perks for people that hey, you guys are giving us your time that you otherwise would be just doing stuff at MAGFest, and we truly appreciate that, and we want to make sure that you guys are comp for that. We can't pay you per se, but we can pay you in terms of benefits like a free badge or like crash space or things like that. So
I just thought of something interesting. So MAGFest 1, we had about 270, 288. That's including staff. Now there's 25,000 people. We had not a lot of square foot about this room, but also we had 8 video game tournaments, one which had 0 people sign up. We had, with Working Designs, we had told them we were going to do an Arc the Lad Arena tournament, which nobody signed up for, but big surprise there. I was talking to Vic Ireland afterwards, and he's like, yeah, I expected that to happen, Joe. We had 8 guests, one of which didn't show up, but he showed up the second or third year. We had 7 or 8 panels total. The nicest, I mean, just so you see, we had one small video room. We had 4.
At least we had one.
Say what?
At least there was one, though.
Yeah. We had 4 dealers, one of which was me because I had my shop at the time. Just so you can see how MAGFest has grown in 22 years, 4 dealers to 400. We had probably less than 20 TVs set up, 5 arcade machines. Now there's probably several hundred. I mean, there's probably 200 or 300 cabs, 200 or 300 machines, et cetera, et cetera. Just so just to give you an idea of how small it was versus. I also remember at the time, the current stuff on the market was the GameCube, the Xbox, and the PS2. There was no PS3. There was no Xbox 360. These things didn't exist. There was no DS or PSP. Those things, yeah. This was a world where even the PSP and the DS didn't exist, right? That's how long ago this was. You could still get your hands on a lot of this stuff. People will pay $1,000 for a game. You could still get these games for like $20 back then. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted some like rare, obscure game, it wasn't rare and obscure back then. So just to give you guys, we got a couple of shameless announcements and plugs to make. I think we got time for maybe one more question before that. Anybody have like one last question? No? All your burning questions have been answered? Okay. No. It was September 27th to 29th. It was 2 nights. That was the typical thing for conventions back then. It was 2 nights. Brendan switched it to 3 nights because he was trying to get more room bookings, because the more rooms you book, you get a sliding scale on the money you owe the hotel at the end of the contract. That's the other reason it got moved to January, because May through August are expensive times to rent a hotel. But the anime guys had always told us that the winter, January is the kiss of death. Nobody does a convention. Brendan and Paul and Dom did prove them wrong on that. But that was the reason we originally headed in April and over to September, shoulder season.
Also why the reason we do MAGFest now in January, because it's the cheapest time to do it.
Yeah, and it still is. That's very true. But yeah, again, until MAGFest came along, there was this idea that you couldn't do a convention this time of year. No one would show up. Everybody's exhausted from Christmas. Nobody has any money left.
It's had its impact.
Yeah, and MAGFest proved them all wrong. So, anyways, all right, we got about 5 minutes left, so we're gonna do. Steve, do you want to talk about your radio show?
I guess so.
Leave me about 2 minutes.
It's completely irrelevant, though. But if we're doing, a shameless plugs,
you want to stick around for mine? It's cool.
You can check out Refrigerate After Opening on WTJU Charlottesville. You don't bother.
Shawn, you got anything you want to sign off on?
No, I don't do anything online really. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Someday I'll have some real good plugs.
Yeah, go ahead. Tom's got one.
So just one last thing, just kind of an overall, as someone who's been here now this is officially my 20th year, 14th year staffing. I mean, I'll just say that, I've been lucky enough to go to a lot of conventions. Probably in my life, I've probably been to almost 100, including MAGFest. I do a lot of other conventions. Midwest Gaming Classic, I'm also staff for. I do Dragon Con, lots of other ones. But MAGFest definitely has a different vibe from any other convention I go to. It's very difficult for me to explain it. It's kind of, it just is. But there is sort of a mentality of everybody's here to have a good time. Everybody's here having fun. Some panels are educational, some panels are concerts. If you just want to go to concerts, that's great. If you just want to go to panels, that's great. If you want to mix, that's great. But there is a vibe here that the best way I can describe it is sort of like the first rule of MAGFest is kind of unofficially is don't be a dick. And the second rule is see rule number 1. And so I will say we have, as someone who's been running a department for a number of years, we have very few issues compared with other conventions that I've been to and run with. I mean, there's always stuff that happens. You always have a few people, but generally people here almost kind of police themselves a little bit because everybody knows it's like, hey, we're here to have a good time. I love all the jam sessions that happen in the hallway or jam space and things like that. It's just that kind of feeling.
No,
and
that's why
I'm still here.
I can't say I've had a altercation or argument with anybody in every one I've ever gone to. Like pretty much, I can't think of one. No.
But that's it.
All right, here's my shameless plug. Bring up the link.
Yep.
So I have a giant vintage collection. Price charting. I'm 46-year-old. I'll be 46 in May. I had my first major surgery. I am trying to cash out. I am looking for social media influencers and game journalists. If you have any friends who do those things and want to help me with exposure, or if you just have any friends with some serious cash. I'm trying to cash out my entire 6 feet. I have an autographed copy of Sega CD Snatcher. I met Kojima, and he signed it for me himself. Bring up the price charting link, too. You can see 75% of my collection is on price charting. So there it, and that's only 3/4 of it. There's the links. If you have any friends who are influencers or game journalists or just have some, nothing is for sale individually. This is all or nothing. That's pretty. But
yeah, because somebody told me that he might be moving somewhere soon.
I mean, you guys, I travel a lot. I've been to 51 countries. I've worked overseas for a number of years. I teach English. I used to teach freshman composition. Now I teach ESL. So I'm in and out a lot. I never know what's going to be my last year at MAGFest for a long time, and it might be this year. If anybody wants like an autographed Walter Day collector's card, catch me after. I'll be glad to sign one. I've only got a few left, so if you already got one, I mean, you could lie to me. I wouldn't know the difference. But Scout's Honor, unless you really, really have a legitimate reason for wanting a second one, or if I have enough left over. But people who don't have one yet, who want one, I'll be happy to sign for you or whatever. But yeah, I'm trying to cash out my giant collection that I've curated since I was 10 years old and, go live on a deserted tropical island somewhere.
And write your books.
Yeah. I have a master's degree in writing, and, I studied under all those famous guys in Hollywood 20 years ago. They're all dead now. Shelley Berman, Mark Norman, Mel Shavelson. Anybody know John Recchi? He wrote City of Night. Shelley Berman, he was on Boston Legal and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he was this guy was old. He was in the original Twilight Zone. He won a Grammy in '59. I mean, so I want to do something with my writing degree once and for all, other than teach English. But anyway, yeah, there's a captive audience for my shameless plug that I'm trying to. This is an amazing collection, by the way. You can go on the price charting link and see a list of everything except the memorabilia items. You'll be impressed. I mean, my TurboGrafx collection alone is, oh good Lord. Not as much as his Neo Geo AES collection. That's nice. But this isn't GameStop trade-in.
Best I can do is Tree Fitty.
Anyway, I guess we're out of time. Thank you, guys. If you do have other questions, if you think of something, come up and catch us after the show.
Oh, yeah, and for sure, if you just see me around anywhere, say hello if you like to.
Yeah.
Always trying to make more friends and stuff, so.
If you want one of these, come holler. If it's 5 people, we'll do it here. If it's more than 5, we'll go outside, et cetera, et cetera. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your MAGFest.
And happy 22nd, MAGFest.